I am joined by local artist Charlotte Bernays and director of the Minories Gallery Emma Howe to talk about the Constant State of Becoming exhibition, which is on between the 9th of May and the 28th of June at the Minories. Hello Charlotte.
Hello Matthew.
Hello Emma.
Hello.
Now, firstly Charlotte, can you tell our listeners about your artistic education, career and experience to date?
Well, my artistic education formally appeared at school to begin with, which I enjoyed, art at school, and eventually just in the normal sort of context of painting and drawing and stuff. And then I left the school I was in Chichester when I was 16 and was transported to a school in Putney, which was one of the first comprehensive schools in the country. And it had the most amazing ceramics department. It treated art quite seriously, and the headmistress confirmed that art was a suitable thing to follow as any academic subject. So there I did quite a lot of ceramics, and my work was sort of displayed and everything, so it was given some sort of importance. However, the things that were happening to me at the same time was an interest in English and good teachers. I was writing poetry quite young, about 10, 11, 12. My mother was a poet and I was interested in reading, and that was very important. Also, I was interested in the natural world, and at this new school I did a biology A-level, so I did art, English and biology, which is a combination which has stayed with me always and has informed all my work. They are interests they permeate everything I do. I'm very conscious that my education was very, very influenced by my mother. She was very imaginative and used to make sure that we had experiences in the countryside from a very early age. She would wake us up while it was still dark, before dawn, put us all in a van and drive us to an amazing place called Kingley Vale, which was a place on the South Downs in Sussex. And she would take us to this place, which was a valley which had been planted by the Vikings after a battle locally where a lot of the Vikings were killed and trees were planted on top of them to commemorate the battle. And we would go up the hill, up to the top of the valley, and make a little fire. And among the bell barrows, which are burial mounds of the Viking chiefs, we would cook breakfast and watch the sunrise. And you will see this in my exhibition, that the sunrise comes into, it's represented quite a lot, and this occasion of the sunrise and the moon set.
And something amazing happened at the opening, didn't it?
I was carrying around a book of haiku poetry by David Cobb, who was also very, very important influence on the development of my work. And I was using that to refer to. And while I was talking to this group of people about my work and explaining the exhibition, a scrap of paper fell out, and it was a piece of paper on which my mother had handwritten her haiku poems. And it was really quite moving because I felt as if she was present.
Yes.
And she would have loved to have been there if she was still around.
Let's talk about the Constant State of Becoming then. It's your first major exhibition. Tell us about its theme and how this exhibition came about.
Well, I've noticed that although I got interested in sequences of events in nature like the currents of spring and seasons and so on, I began to encounter more ideas about physics, and became, as everyone's been exposed to people like Brian Cox and taken on board these ideas, seeing things from the greater distance, so to speak, I was interested to find out that everything is made of particles, which we're all aware of, more or less. So everything's made up of atoms. But all this, everything we encounter, including ourselves, are all in a state of flux. And the idea that everything comes together, all the particles come together and become a thing, which then eventually disperses and becomes something else. So there's a sort of transference. My main interest is in energy and matter and how the two things produce each other. It's one of the reasons I use bird murmurations, because the bird murmurations are made of lots and lots of units. Lots of birds come together, form a thing, fly around as a sort of moving object, and then disperse and come back again. And it's a good metaphor for what happens to all the substance in our world and our own lives.
Murmurations are incredible. I remember once I saw one in Rome that transfixed me for about half an hour. It's quite a good inspiration for art.
I've watched them so much, I have to be careful if I'm in the car and give myself a little talk, do not look. But I've been watching how they form and why they make these balletic shapes, which I could offer an idea to you.
Yeah.
And they start to make them incredible shapes when they're about to roost in the evening, when they're about to land all together and make themselves safe for the night. And what they do is find, actually, if they come together, many birds from many different directions come together, and they need to fly up and down the area that they're going to roost on. And I think, from what I've observed, that their wings generate so much wind, and if you've heard them, if you've seen and heard them, you'll know this, that they actually set up vortices, which the structure of the flock has to follow in the air, and make these amazing shapes which look as if they're determining them, but actually it's the shapes that the wind currents are generated by their wind.
Okay. So how did the exhibition come about at the Minories?
Well, I've been working in my studio, which is quite big and tall, for a long time without really promoting myself. And I haven't got the sort of bright lights of fame and fortune motivating me. I just make my work because I need to make it. It's actually because I want to see it. I want to see the thing that I'm thinking about. But I don't know what it's going to look like, so I just make it. And I don't necessarily need other people to see it. I just get very excited when I see it. And then if people come in my studio and love it too, then that's great. And I take part in the art trail.
You do?
And Emma was visiting one day, and as she went out, she said, "Do you recognise me?" And I said, "Yes." No, I didn't say yes. I said, "No, that was a lie." And she said, "I've been in your studio before." She came to see me with First Sight. What is it? With First Sight. A couple of years before, I think. And she just then said, "Would you like an exhibition?" And I bit her arm off and said yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm here.
So alongside your exhibition, there's also an exhibition by Hazel Albarn called Shapeshifter. I understand you're close. You've been friends for a long time.
We've known each other over 40 years. I've worked with her on costumes and things. She used to teach at Greyfriars. People in Colchester might be very familiar with her as a teacher of adult education, also life drawing, I think. She was very innovative. She used to make furniture out of paper. Had a shop in Oldham, which she would sell some of these things from and exhibit some of these things. So yes, it was time she showed her feathers again in Colchester, and I think she was very pleased to do so. Good.
Before we pass on to Emma to talk about that, I have to mention us at Cone Radio and you, where your studio is, are very, very close neighbours, aren't we?
We are. We're extremely close.
So now I know where to pop for a coffee, don't I?
Absolutely.
Oh,
I'm
right.
always welcome. People do call in and see me and have a chat. So I have a very nice situation where I'm working on my own, which I really like, but I have companionship as people, call in and talk, have a chat, look at what I'm doing and that sort of thing, which is really marvellous.
Terrific, thank you very much. Turning to you, Emma, when did the Minories become involved and how the support from the City Council and the Henry Moore Foundation was arranged?
So as Charlotte said earlier, I had been to her studio before, but then when I went round for the Wivenhoe Trail, I think it was 2 years ago, which is almost exactly 2 years ago now because it's just happened. I'd been at the Minories for a year at that point and I couldn't help but see how Charlotte's work would be perfect in these spaces of the gallery. So I just thought, why not? So I just offered her a show there, and I just thought, I knew from speaking to Charlotte before that She hadn't really had a major solo presentation before, and you know, she's been practicing for over 50 years as an artist, and I just thought, well, hell, it's about time, right? So I offered her a show there, and we kind of put some tentative dates in the diary. The Henry Moore and the City Council support, we applied for funding. So Henry Moore is a major, you know, nationwide funder who fund exhibitions and new commissions that are sculptural. And Charlotte's work, that, you know, 99% of the work in the exhibition is sculptural. So we were able to apply and successfully get some funding from there. And then the City Council came via a grant scheme that they do every year called the Cultural Events Fund, I believe it's called. So we applied there and were able to get a bit of money from there as well, which was fantastic. And you know, that support has really made this exhibition, we've been able to do it to its absolute full potential. Seeing it come together after 2 years of working on it, it's been really, you know, really fantastic.
Now there's another exhibition on that runs sort of alongside Charlotte's exhibition, which is from Hazel Albarn, entitled Shapeshifter. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So during early conversations with Charlotte kind of mentioned her relationship with Hazel and how they've been friends for a really long time and supported each other, and how Hazel's artistic practice had been particularly, you know, had an effect on her when she was coming through, and Hazel as a mentor to her. And Hazel also has a really long history with the Minories and with Colchester. She was married to Keith Albarn, who ran the art school in the Minories. So she's been associated with the Minories for a really long time. The work in Shapeshifter is focused around her practice of making masks. She's been making masks since the 60s. So in the exhibition you can see kind of her drawings of masks, of things which she wants to make into masks. I think she's interested in the kind of anonymity that wearing a mask can give you, and how you can take on the persona and the behaviours of somebody else or of something else, and it gives you that freedom to do things that maybe you wouldn't normally do. So with Charlotte and I thought it would be really appropriate for Hazel to have a room within Charlotte's show to really recognise Hazel as an artist as well, and recognise the importance of her work and the impact that it's had on Charlotte.
Now these sound like two exhibitions that people should really come and see. Just remind our listeners what dates and times the exhibition is open to the public, and how our listeners can find out more about it.
The exhibitions, both of them, are on until the 28th of June. That's a Sunday. The Minories is open Wednesdays to Sundays, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's free to enter. So yeah, come anytime within those times. There's a bit more information on our website. Charlotte's also been interviewed in the Gazette several times, so you can find information online in those articles as well. And we've also got a catalogue for Charlotte's show available to purchase in the gallery for £10. That's been supported by another local organisation, Jardine Press, which is based in Wivenhoe. So it's a fantastic publication. Kind of listeners are interested when they've seen the show and they want to learn more about Charlotte's practice. That's a fantastic way of doing so as well.
Good. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to Cone Radio, Charlotte and Emma, and we hope the exhibition is a big success.
Thank you.
Thank you.